the first 2 rounds of the NCAA tournament is turning into is a free-for-all where anybody can get got now. Yep. And you could say that it's about, talent level, and it is. Okay, you could say that. But I just don't think they have a deep enough officiating roster.
It's bad.
It had to have been that way always back in the day. I just don't know if it's changed now because of 4K high definition and super slow-mo and review. Yeah. Like every game in the NCAA tournament that's close, you need to tack on another 5 more minutes of your life getting through timeouts and what have you, but also there's invariably going to be slow motion of whose fingers touched it last. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then honestly, Gene Steratore is hopping in, talking about the rules analyst that he does. We all know him for football, but he also is a terrific college basketball ref back in the day too. And so he's not really talking too much about restricted area blocks and charges. He's the one coming in, parsing out whose fingers are on the basketball. And at one point, Jim Nantz even said, can we dust for Prince? I think he said at one point. I forget which game it was. He said over the weekend. Honestly, it's like, what? Steratore is the most, I guess, watched guy talking about fingerprints and looking at CSI. I was going to go Law and Order. Jerry Orbach is what I was going to go.
I was just saying CBS is a CSI.
That's true. I should go since
CSI Steratore.
William Peterson.
It just stinks because these games are so exciting. It's obviously win or go home. There's so much on the line. There's so much at stake, and it's just stop. Let's take a 3-minute review. It just ruins watching the game.
But I think UNC versus Baylor was a bloodbath. They were hitting the hell out of each other. Yeah. And then Arizona-TCU. There would be times where you hear the whistle and then they'd let it go. Right. Arizona-TCU was almost a complete disaster. And I know the fans of TCU would say, well, what do you mean almost? It was a complete disaster. Yeah. But, that game, the way it ended was wild, to say the least. Back here on our terrestrial radio outfit talking about the end of Arizona-TCU. The end of this game, okay, TCU's Mike Miles was dribbling right around half court, okay? And he gets mugged. Or he wasn't fouled and he went over and back.
Right.
Okay, he went in the backcourt. Neither was called. So if there's no call on the foul, how is he not turning it over and back? He went beyond the half-court line. He went into his backcourt.
Right.
Neither got called. Ball is loose. And of all people, Jason Terry's kid picks it up. Did you know that? Jason Terry's kid plays for Arizona.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And he goes and dunks it at the buzzer. And it's pandemonium. Arizona wins, except the officials rightfully waved it off because he went for the dunk. It was too late. The backboard was lit as he was putting it in. But then you look at the play. Everyone should check it out. When that moment at half court hit, the clock stopped for a split, couple tenths of a second or whatever? Right. Like it says 2.2. It just stays there long enough for your naked eye to notice it. And had Terry's jam beaten the buzzer, had he not jammed it, let's say he finger rolled it, let's say he teardropped it, okay, and put it in, they would have potentially had to wave it off after the case when they figured out how much time was really on the clock. If there was more time on the clock, right, and he was saying, let the ball loose, then you could now figure out, wait a minute, that shouldn't have counted because there was actually less time on the clock.
Yeah, I'm just watching the end of it now. There
was less than 2.2. So he still didn't get it off, and he should have had less time. But what if he had finger rolled it, gotten it in? Well, wait a minute. There was really less time on the clock because it stopped for a split second.
But to your point, how is this not a foul?
Well, even if it's not a foul, how's it not an over and back?
Yeah. Gosh.
And also, the Mathurin and one in overtime. I mean, it looks like a held ball for a split second. Then he rips the ball away from a defender and moved it's what appeared to be like every foot. Like, sometimes the play is so choppy and so physical that the refs lose themselves. Mm-hmm. And I just don't know if they don't have a deep enough roster of officials. I'm assuming it's going to get better because now there's fewer games. But when you got a staff, when you got a staff 6 games in a regional and then come back and staff 4, 2 the next day, or I guess 6 games an entire weekend, right? 4 and then 2. I just don't know where they're getting some of these folks because it's way too inconsistent. Here I am bitching about officiating, but it looked great in the Michigan-Tennessee game, I'll tell you that. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.